then let's continue right on with, no, not this tutorial, the one we saw earlier perhaps, and it had this bluish sky. In fact, I still have a brush image that I created for this one here. Let's see if I can get back to it. I must have it somewhere, maybe in the clipboard. Let's see if it's still in the clipboard. So I'm gonna go to Image, Clipboard, paste new image. Nope, it's not there anymore. So I'm gonna need to get that from my camera. Give me a second here, because I did not copy it over to my main hard drive. It's still on my chip inside my camera. And so here we go, put that in. Yeah, nothing problem there. Continue without scanning. There we go. Alright, so we have some images here. And in fact, those tree bark ones are also really interesting to explore for possible landscape use. So I'm gonna go actually and drop one of those in. Let's just move this down here, drop that over here, replace it, lose that animation, and there we go. Alright, so we've got this tree bark. We'll do something with that a little later. Let's just for now store it and forget it. Alright, and then we have the sky I wanted to grab. That's not the one with the penguins, not the one with the pelicans, not the one with the sea lions or the airplane, though that could be an interesting one too. But let's say even something like this one here. This is really interesting too. Any of these guys you might want to use, but perhaps add a little bit more perspective distortion. Remember what we did in the other video? I took, I think this one here. Yep, this one. I took that, but I then needed to squeeze it a little bit, make it more narrow at the bottom, and expand it on the right and left in the top corners, just to give it a bit more perspective distortion. And there is actually another way to do that, but probably more intuitive or more immediate with immediate visual feedback. So let me do that. In fact, I'll take this one. Right. So with this one, we have also again a very high resolution image, and what I'll do is I'll copy it and then go to the image and clipboard and paste new image from the clipboard. So here it is. And so what I'd like to do is bring it down to a bit more reasonable dimensions. That's image resample, making it smaller, perhaps half the size, perhaps even another half there. And so once I have that, I still need to give it a bit more of a perspective look, right? Make it come closer together at the bottom here, and give it that perspective distortion, because I will be using it as the backdrop on a 3D render in which the camera has a very wide angle. I could change that, right? I could make it more of a telephoto direct view, but if I have a wide angle look, I should make sure that the sky has kind of similar appearance in terms of the distortion of the clouds based on whether they are in the line of sight or a bit on the side, and kind of get far away, really small, really fast. So here's what I'd like to do. I'll simply use the transform filter called 3D perspective. Right, last time in the other tutorial I used the rubber sheet. Just as a reminder, I can kind of grab a corner here and put it here, put this here. I can grab this one, even bring it outside of the review here, and then click go, and that creates sort of a distortion on that. It's usable, and it may just work fine for many users, but I'm going to go a different route, and that is with the 3D perspective. That was probably one of the very first filters that Dan implemented with his new 3D pipeline. So 3D perspective, normally what you do is you use that to tilt it maybe to a side, you know, like imagine you have sort of TV monitors, and they're even animated, and they all kind of go into infinity, but you can also tilt it one way or the other, and you can also have it tiled. By default it is repeating, but if you uncheck that, you can see that while you move it around, you move the UV texture here, it's showing the whole repeating, but the moment I let go, if it's not repeating, it's going to show just this the thing here. And so that filter you can use quite nicely to create the effect we want with regard to that perspective look. You simply use the rotate around the x-axis like this, and perhaps tilt it a bit like that. And then that will basically make it look like the upper parts close to your head are getting bigger, and the farther away they are, the smaller they will appear. All right, now you can overdo it, and you can do too much of that. Plus, you can also perhaps add a little bit of a spherical component to that, or you could also keep it tiling. So if you wanted that to go seamlessly to the edge, what you would need to do first is turn this, make this seamless. Make this image seamless. Probably actually get rid of the the bottom that you have here with the houses. That would be ideally something you don't have in the picture, right? So you might actually start with a picture that's been cropped where this thing has been taken out, or you might remove it and put something from the upper area here on top. So there's a couple of different techniques. We've covered that already in other tutorials using the fill tool that down here from the image fill menu. There is clone fill, feature removal fill. Clone fill would be really useful for that, because you could basically grab a portion, select a portion of the image that you do like, and then have it cloned in the area of interest, or rather of no interest, right, where you don't want the houses to stay. So let's not repeat that. We've covered that before. What I do want to do is simply, in this case, just crop it. Right, so I'm going to select this time. I'm going to use this technique, which is to select. Let's see. I want to see the alpha overlay, marching ants, okay, and then so I'm going to select even outside of the image. But I will not select too much of the clouds, of the trees. I'm going to go down here. So there's a portion down here that I'm going to ignore. There are still a few trees here or there. We'll get rid of them in a different way. Let's first crop to that. So image, crop to selection. There it is. And now we have those trees to worry about, and also this light pole. And then same thing over here on the right side. Let's focus on those first. One thing you could do is use the lasso tool and perhaps collect all that, kind of put a little bin around it, put a little bit of a smoothing tool as well, so smooth that selection, something like box filter alpha, show me that alpha, and then don't make it too soft, but still a little bit. And then you can go and use the fill, clone fill, and bring in some other clouds in there. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough, most likely. And if not, you just crop the picture out altogether. So then you do Control D and you get rid of that. So yeah, if you go up too far, the sky is darker blue, more saturated than down in this area. So that was not a perfect choice. But it's good enough to at least get the basic idea going here. And we'll do the same thing with this one. We'll select, again with the magic wand, or rather with the lasso tool, we'll select the pole. And if you didn't smooth the edges, you could actually do this also. Simply do a fill, clone fill, but it's going to do a very rough sudden transition there on the edges. So that's why it's a better idea to undo this and then go to smooth the selection. And this time I'm going to use the Gaussian blur and get this to give me a bit of a smooth transition. And now, as I'm using the clone fill, or the feature removal fill, sometimes that will work fine too. This one is not my favorite, so I could also do a combination. I could do the clone fill on top of that, right? And but you got to make sure that you don't go too far and grab something that's just outlandish and looks wrong. It looks like it's out of its place. So Control D to clear that. And so if you don't know, if you don't pay attention to it, if you don't go look for it, you might never know that there was no cloud there before, right? So there is one more place down here. And so this one will do about the same way. We'll select this area here. And well, this time I'll use the smooth back to the box filter. And I don't know, maybe not. Let's see. Selection, Gaussian blur alpha. Yeah, they both will work fine. Let's go around this much. And this time we probably want to, oops, that's not the selection here. What I'd like to do probably is grab a portion of this sky and move it over here. Right, so that's basically the idea with that clone fill. Simply point to the area that you want, and that area gets copied over to where you came from, the center point of that selection. Don't go down too low. You're going to see the top, which is up here. Right, it's replicating there. That's where the sun is. But you can go just sideways and grab it from about here. And if there are a lot of clouds around here, you'll want to go in an area similar to that with a lot of clouds here, right? And so that way it's not going to be too different or too distracting. Control D. So there you go. So now you basically really can't see the clouds. I mean, you can't see the trees of the houses anymore. And what you can do now is turn this into a seamless texture. If you want to actually then do that trick with the 3D perspective and keep tiling it to the edges that get smaller as well. So let's go store this image. That's a good achievement. Let's store it. Then we go to make seamless, also from the image menu. Make seamless. It's not always going to be easy though, because you do have some parts that are really big up here, big clouds, and a lot of small ones. So that might look a bit odd. But hey, you know, we'll do what we can here. And so we have this seamless one. Now we can use the transform 3D perspective. And now if we rotate it one way or the other, you have the benefit of the seamless edges. And so you can also shift this, and you can position it slightly differently, and it keeps going, right? Because we have this repeating. If you didn't have the repeating, then it would look a bit different, right? But with the repeating side enabled, you don't have to worry about it, and you can potentially get these clouds to replicate even more. Usable all the way to the edge, because now this part here on the right side comes from the left and it kind of tiles endlessly. So okay, so that's a sky with a better perspective distortion, right? And we can use that one. We might even want to add another filter, which is a bit of a spherical or a fisheye effect. That one you need to determine, you know, is it really worth it? Yeah, it might add a little bit something, depending on which way you think that distortion needs to go. There are some others. You might want to see if there's sphereize, probably not. Globe, probably not. I mean, there's a couple of other things here that might occasionally be of interest. The wave distortion, nope. That's pretty much fisheye correction. Yeah, very similar to what I just saw earlier, just not as fast. So that's probably an older one from the same idea. Let's see what else we have here. So we have, yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. So of course you could add also some fog filter and add the opacity here, so you have a stronger fog level towards the bottom, towards the horizon, and that's certainly something that will blend in nicely with whatever you put in the foreground. Another one you could also use is the sun filter, sunset. Under photographic we have the fog, we have the sunset. And so the sunset filter has kind of two fog levels, one at the top, one at the bottom. The bottom one here, it's more of a tinting though, it's not going to saturate too white, it's simply going to tint it. So if you want the sunset reddish tint towards the lower half, and then the upper part could be still red, bluish. Or it could also be reddish, but perhaps more of an orangey. Or the top one could be, the bottom one could be as is. Give it a bit of a a plain or maybe a little bit of a bluish, colder tint, and the top one is the one you want to give some reddish tint to that. Then you can still add the fog. We just saw that a bit earlier. Where's my fog filter? There it is. And that one too, by the way, could get a little bit of a reddish tint. But the key thing is that it's going to saturate to it. I mean, it's going to fade into that. So you can then perhaps go back to expanding dynamic range, all sorts of other things. Look at that, the filter soft soft contrast improvement. That one's great. That one is definitely worth a try as well. If you want to show this entire sky kind of coming to life and burning almost in the sun. Of course, then you might say, well, where is the sun? So you need to add the lens flares and see, perhaps don't overdo it, perhaps add some of the smaller suns initially, just to see if it was right there coming around, or then get a little bit more of a bloom with some of the others. I mean, you know, the sky's the limit, quite literally here. You can do really a lot of beautiful things, and store this one and then get started to build your 3D terrain and then composite the two together in the same ways as we saw earlier. And you can do that even in other programs, right? I mean, if you want to, you can take that into Photoshop or some other programs and basically do the compositing by work of different layers, right? So different techniques, similar results. So all right, so thanks for watching, and I hope this was useful, and you know, stay tuned for more.